Hello. Hello. Yeah. All right. So that's all right. All right, let's try this again. I don't know, I had some technical difficulties. Everything basically shut off. So let me just get this menu music down. It's a bit too loud. We'll go down here. Perfect. Okay, so back to what I was actually trying to get to before whole system shut down, which was great. So I want to do a really quick force feedback update on Automobilista 2. I did a video a few days ago on the 9.2 and 9.2.1 update, and there were some notable changes to the physics and force feedback across the board. And I noticed that night while I was taking it out for a run, there was something felt missing. I knew that there was differences in the feedback and the force and the physics as well, but it just felt like it just didn't feel right. So that's kind of when I remembered immediately that I didn't do my usual process of going in and deleting the Automobilista 2 folder in your documents. Normally it's not something that you really need to do, but I find in any kind of betas and a lot of times if there's no like career progress or things that are saved or tied directly to what's in that folder, then I usually kind of delete it. And the reason is that sometimes the changes in the update don't actually transfer properly for whatever reason. There's conflicts in the file, or there's something that just causes it to not actually update properly. I mean, you'll load the game and you do everything, it's fine. There's no issues there, but it's just you don't get the actual changes in those. And this kind of goes back to Project Cars 2. If anybody was in the beta of Project Cars 2, it was pretty much the same thing. So for some games, I do that. I tend to just delete that folder. So it's basically you go into your documents. I usually kind of create a copy of it, just zip it and put it away somewhere, and just in case something happens, and I delete that whole folder. The one downside to that is you have to go back in and map your buttons and your preferences and things like that, like audio and your visual preferences. So that's the only downside to it, but the upside is that you actually get a nice clean update to it. So in doing so, I immediately went back in, mapped all my buttons, made all the force feedback changes, took a car. Usually take, like in Automobilista 2, I take like the sprint race, the Super V8, a couple of formula cars, take them out in the track, and it was literally night and day difference. So, I mean, I think just a rule of thumb, if you're doing any kind of betas, or I mean, if you're not bothered by going back in and mapping out your buttons and so forth, I just did it again previously to or prior to launching this game up. So that's why I had to go in and adjust my menu audio to bring that down. I updated the performance settings and things like that. So really, the only thing you would really need to do is go into your controls, and every time I do that, I go in and map my wheel. So we'll do that really quick. So with the Formula wheel, we're just going to go a full turn. I don't go super quick. I just maybe it's just an OCD thing. Just bring it like to that, bring it to the clockwise, and then turn the wheel. Hold on a second. I didn't actually hit next, so let's do that again. So when you go, you always want to make sure you leave it fully extended. Okay, fully extended there, and then you press your next button, and then you see we got a nice 180 degree. So we're going to bring that, and I always try to get that at 1080. I mean, some people will just be like, oh, whatever, but I like to try and get it at as close to 1080 as possible. And then we'll go in and calibrate the pedals. So just I do them like nice and slow. I don't do them too quick to make sure it gets the full reading of the pedals. And go back into the force feedback. So the force feedback that I did the other night, the default was at 150, 50, and 10, whatever. It doesn't really make a big difference for your menu spring strength. So I lowered it. I'm going to leave it exactly what I had it the night before when I actually did the video, and I'll go back in and try it as is and see if there's a difference in the force feedback, if I feel a difference in it. My buttons, I think, were all mapped out pretty well. I don't know if you're actually interested in that. If you want to see how I map my buttons out for the Formula V2 wheel, so basically there's no real changes in anything here. The changes start when I go into more of the vehicle assistance in your camera. So the headlights, I have it mapped to my button box, which I don't know if you see it down here, but on the bottom I have a button box there. So I have it mapped to a button there, which for pretty much any games I have my button box set to lights, wipers, force feedback, volume up and down if the option is there in the game. And then on the other side, I always have my seat forward, seat backward, seat up, seat down, and then brake bias I can have it set to here, but I'd rather have it set on the Formula V2 wheel. And then also Motec display and so forth, and pit request. So I have that on my button box. So headlights, wipers are on the button box. KERS is on my top left paddle. The DRS is on my top right paddle. Pit stop request, as I said, it was on my button box down here and below. Pit limiter, I have it set right here in the middle, so where it's comfortably my thumb is landing, so I'm not kind of looking around for it. So when I'm going into the pit, I want to make sure that where my thumb is comfortably sitting, that I can hit the pit limiter quickly. For my brake bias, I have it on my right rotary up and down. I don't map the anti-roll bars. I don't find it's something I'm constantly adjusting in the car, so I don't bother mapping them. So I can map really the things that I'm using the most often. Steering assist, any of this stuff. The stability control and traction control, I have it set here to, ABS, sorry. And the traction control, I have them mapped here to this toggle switch. Let me just make sure it's done. Yeah, so that's correct, and that's correct. The camera, I have it down to my bottom left button, the cluster of 3 buttons on the bottom. I have it to my bottom left, and that I map the same for every game. So a lot of controls I map similar in most games, just so I'm not kind of trying to remember each mapping for every single title. So it just makes it a lot easier if you're focusing on, things that are available in some games that are not. You can map those, but most things try to map them similar. My look back, I have it on my toggle switch here, so I can go back and then left, right with this. Seat forward, up, down, and backward. As I said earlier, I have that mapped to my button box. And then in game, pause button, I have it usually where if you have like the Xbox buttons on your Formula V2, then it's where the start button is. So I always map that to there. And the Motec, I have it set to which if you had the Xbox buttons on, it would be the X button. So I have that there. And then the rest I leave at default. So this way I'm not going in and playing around too much with everything. So I want to be just a really quick update, but let's do a quick run on a track with 1 or 2 cars. We'll do like a lap or 2 each one. And we'll go out there and try the car. So let's go with a Formula car. I tend to like taking out the Formula 3s, 309 or the 301. 301's a really nice car. They're both straightforward, but we'll do the 301. Let's take the just stop motors. Let's do Montreal track. We'll do a classic Montreal, and we'll try that. So we'll just get the gloves on. And I know some people kind of smirk at having gloves on, but if you have an Alcantara wheel, it will save you years of the wheels kind of staying in good shape. So, all right, I'm not going to change anything. Let's go straight out and try this and see what it goes like. I would like to just do a quick check of the sound because I like to see the differences in the sounds either in car, out car, and so forth. So let's go. So I'll tell you right away, I can feel the road in the wheel. I didn't feel that the other night running. I can feel a lot of detail. There's no oscillation really. This is just the wheel vibrating from what I'm feeling on the road. So if you can see that. Okay, so yeah, you know what? It's definitely not placebo effect. There is a big difference in what I'm feeling. The only thing though I do want to bring down is a bit of the effects and the low force boost. No, let's leave the low force boost. Just bring that up a little bit, about 5 knots on that. And I do want to check. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do a quick check on Fanalab to make sure that it's not running the dynamic. Yeah, so we want to make sure the dynamic is on there. Okay. Yeah, because I just want to make sure that the dynamic damper is not running in Fanalab right now, because I don't know exactly how it's working in conjunction with AMS2, so we'll just leave that off for now. So let's go back out, try that with just a couple of those little changes. Okay, so right away I can feel that. I want to jump in immediately to another car that I know. I don't want to get too comfortable with this car before trying out the other car. So let's do the sprint race. Right there. Take the sprint race. We'll go on the same track. We'll try this one. We'll take just a lap or two on this one. Just we'll see what I have my force feedback set to. So yeah, so same settings, 40 on the wheel. Okay. So I can immediately feel the weight on the wheel. There's a definite distinction between the cars. I know I took this one out the other night and it felt good. It had a really great feel to it because I know they made some changes on this, but it definitely does feel a difference. So just by deleting that folder and starting fresh with a new folder that it automatically creates for you when you start the game up, I think it makes a world of a difference for now. Hopefully, you won't have to be doing this when you're in the actual release, but when you're in beta, early access, anything like that, I would definitely do it because there's so many changes going on. So let's take this out for a lap. Okay, so that feels really good. Now the third one I'll take out is just take a lap on the Super V8. This one here with the still that artifact in the window. It still drives me crazy. All right, let's take this one out and that'll be the last one for this video. We'll just see if it actually makes a difference between the cars. So if you haven't done it, I would definitely go try it out. Delete the folder, make a backup of it. So it's remember, it's in your documents folder, the whole Automobilista 2 folder. Just delete that and restart your computer, start the game up and see. Okay, so I can say that I absolutely love the feel of this car now. There's been so many little tweaks to these cars over the past couple updates that I mean, it just doesn't feel the same at all. It doesn't feel the way it did in the initially. Felt really floaty before. Felt like you weren't connected to the road. Now it feels like that weight transfer, under braking. You feel the torque, you feel the power in it. It's just a really nice update. And I can honestly say this force feedback and physics update that they made from 9.2 and 9.2.1 is probably the best update I've seen so far out of this release. Definitely still in early access, so they have a lot of time to play and a lot of time to get this thing up to, well, not a lot of time, but you know what I mean. They have a lot of areas they can improve and continue modifying and tweaking on this, but I think they're really doing a nice job, and you'd be quite impressed. This is nothing like Project Cars 2, aside from the fact that they're using the Madness engine for a lot of other things, but as far as the physics, the handling, the force feedback, this is definitely not Project Cars 2. Handles like it should handle. All right, so I hope you guys like that information. That just update you on that. I just wanted to jump on really quick because I noticed I felt it was different, and as soon as I deleted the folder, I remembered that it was something I usually do all the time, and I didn't do it this time. But yeah, it's definitely worth making that little change. And so yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in, and we'll see you back on soon.